Welcome to Dragonlance Hangout. It is Kirinor Frostcolt the 10th. My name is Adam, and today I'm being joined once again by friend of the show, illustrator Mike Perry. How you doing, man?
How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very happy to have you back. We just have so much of your work to talk about. So, and since it's all
It's great.
just,
I love talking Dragonlance, so this
yeah,
is awesome.
you say, since it's all Dragonlance, it's all good. DXD4,
Hmm.
thanks for tuning in. Now, I would like to take a moment and thank the DL Saga YouTube members and Patreon patrons and invite you to you can even pick up Dragonlance Media using my affiliate links. All right, so we were going to be joined by someone else and we were going to be trying to do like a little game, but I'm not sure that's going to end up working. And I saw the work that you had put together on one of the storyboard frames and then like the rendered version of it. And I was just blown away. So, do you want to jump into that real quick?
Sure, sure.
Do a little bit of fun. No, that's not this. We'll get there too. Yeah.
There we go.
So this is the incredible storyboard art that you had put together, and you added shadow and lighting, and I mean, it was an incredible piece from just the sketch as we were just briefly talking throughout the whole process of it. And then you put together this from it. And
Hmm.
holy shit, does that look good?
Thank you. Yeah, it's so what I was trying to do is figure out how could I quickly render these things, and how I could use some of these AI tools to take that storyboard and maybe turn them into keyframes or even animating them based off of those frames.
Right.
And this is just a sample of one. And I thought I'd share it with you just so you can, see how it might possibly look, And it's not perfect. You can see Bakaris's hair kind of coming out of the back of his helmet, and bottom of his arm seems to be cut off. And, I'm not sure if he's got the right amount of fingers or anything, but it's still for just a quick render, it has all the same elements before I loaded it in. So it's a bit of a reverse of, like if you saw the other frame, the arrow, like, there we go. We're seeing his right arm
Yeah.
uh, from that side. And then the other version, we're seeing it. So it's just the arm away from the camera got hit with the arrow. I can't remember why I did that, but yeah, you can see. I mean, it's got the snow falling. It's got a bit of Solinari casting its light up in the sky. It's got a lot of mood. It feels cold. I mean, it does capture quite a bit of what we were going for. And I think with some practice and some refinement, I could do better, for sure.
It
But that's
looks
sort of where it's
incredible.
going.
It looks
Mm,
so good. Just so lifelike.
mm,
Especially just because we started here, you know? I mean, the whole
mm,
process of creating and refining artwork is just so fascinating. And I don't necessarily want to get into the entirety of like using AI and stuff, but we were talking about it before we started the
mm,
show. And it's so important,
mm,
as you were mentioning, to be able to learn the tools of the era that you're working in. And AI is certainly one of them. And
mm,
so, having prompted it to create this whole stock with no references at all is one thing, but to
mm,
storyboard art out the frame and to add texture and lighting and shadow and interest and action, and then to have it generate it from all of that work that you've already done. I actually think that's a good thing. I don't see that as like an abject negative of using AI.
Yeah, like I don't know if we need to get into the weeds of AI because I mean that's a whole other
Yeah.
concept right there.
Yeah.
But it's here. I work in advertising. AI is already a huge part of that industry. It's a huge part of filmmaking already. I just listened to a discussion today about one of the heads of DreamWorks, and he was talking about one of his thoughts how AI is going to be incorporated into film production moving forward.
Right.
And I mean, I'm just trying to learn the tools and see how they're using it now,
Mhm.
so I can still stay busy and relevant for the rest of my career,
Yeah.
and try to understand what they're doing and how they're doing it and what it's capable of. And I didn't really spend a lot of time with this. I was just put it in, and I think what a lot of people don't understand about it is just how much time you can spend dealing with settings and prompts and different types of checkpoint models and whatever. Like it's a huge time sink to
Yeah.
to really mess around and do different things. And so I only played with this for so long, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then I moved on. I did some other ones, but this is the only one I've sent you because it probably looks the best.
Mhm.
And I've tried other approaches where I've done a color pass over the black and white just so I can specify colors. And I find that's the best way to get anything approximating what I'm like. If you just let the AI run with it, it's not really gonna like it's not gonna get that he's wearing a blue cape and his hair is blonde or that type of thing, right? I mean, you can
Right.
type it in, but it's not always going to get it. And when you get more complicated characters, like I tried doing one for Lorana, and just getting that she's an elf and she's got long blonde hair and then the red cape and all these things, it didn't pick up on the nuance, so I had to add color to it and play with it. And I don't know, I'm just trying to see what works, what doesn't, how this is gonna play out, and
Yeah.
what we can do. But I think it'd be really neat if we could take that High Claris Tower scene that you and I storyboarded, and then turn it into a short 30-second or
Oh
minute or a
my
couple minute
gosh, that'd be
animation. Wouldn't that be
amazing.
fun?
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. And it's doable. It's
Mhm.
totally doable. And I think even when we did it at the time, some of the people in the chat was asking us if we're going to do that. And I think it's probably quite doable. I mean, I don't know how to do all of it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if in a year or two it would be much more streamlined and even easier for us to do that, or to do that with anything really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now, it's really easy to have AI just choose what happened next from a scene or an image. You sort of give it a few prompts and it'll just sort of come through. But to give it like a start and end point and say,
Mhm.
create photorealistic, fill in the gaps of these two frames. I think we're, if not already there with certain software, we're really close
Mhm.
to having that as cinematic. I mean, it's getting so good that, if you pay for the versions of AI tools that are sort of at the peak of capability right now, it looks genuinely real, and it's hard to distinguish between AI or not anymore. But
Well,
again,
one
all the
thing,
free tools, they're pretty obvious. They're still AI.
well, I think it's AI. So there's a storyboard class called Toon Boom, and that you can put in your keyframes, and then it'll animate. It'll just generate your in betweens for you.
Oh, cool.
And in betweens is, so if you have your keyframes, like your hand goes here, here, and then the key for or the in betweens are all the frames between A and B.
Mm.
That's it's laborious. It's very laborious. But if you have your specific moments and animations, the animator would draw that, and then the computer would just generate that stuff for you. So AI with animation has been around for a long time.
Mhm.
Not like, I don't think people think of it that way, but that's it. It generates the in betweens. And I mean, even if you look at Photoshop, there's a lot of things that just automates for you.
Yep.
So I think it's automation is AI. It's
Mhm.
just the problem is now that the AI has gotten so good at generating so many complicated things, and it's just that much better that now we're all, we're totally gobsmacked. We don't know how to deal with it or how to interpret it, and it's completely changing the way we look at things.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting concept. It kind of twists your mind, and it's something that we should probably talk about more. But maybe it's such a deep
Yeah.
subject and not really related to talk about Dragonlance.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's definitely a hot button for sure.
Yeah, and it's exciting because you can leverage some of it, as we had mentioned before, to even realize some of the storyboarding that you've done already. So that's
Mhm,
what's really exciting,
mhm.
and this is just proof of that.
Well, I
Ryan,
mean,
thanks
it's
for
great
tuning in.
as a solo guy. It really can help you produce so much more volume. It can really maximize your output,
Hmm.
right? So, and any creator, it can use it to, like, take just for me to illustrate every single frame and
Yeah.
then animate every single frame. That's a year of your life if we did it the traditional way. But if you can use a computer to generate your in betweens or then color it and then whatever and then add different things, you could have a short film in a more reasonable time span. So I think it's, if anything, in the relation to making films, I think it's just going to create or increase output. And if you look at the way the streaming model is now, like how many films are released every year, it's ridiculous. There's
Yeah.
thousands of movies and short films released every year just to keep the streaming platforms happy, to
Yeah.
keep subscribers tuning in. So they just want more and more content, and I think this is going to help people create the content. And also for junior creators, they're not, or just independent creators, they're not going to be reliant on the studio system to create something really cool. So I
Mm.
think it might be an opportunity, just like how YouTube was, for a lot of people to get out there and get their voices heard and get their ideas out there and start telling their stories, and they're not going to have to worry about, you know, Disney or MGM or any of these studios kind of gatekeeping what gets to market.
Right.
But that's that maybe we'll actually be able to make Dragonlance that way. That might be a way that Hasbro might go,
Yeah.
right? They
Well, and
can.
it seems like that's the only way that we would be able to have it done is if we did it independently, because they clearly,
Mhm.
the studios don't want to do a Dragonlance film for some reason, or a series for some reason. Like, it just boggles my mind. Just to speak to the fact that you were just speaking to, was they have to create so much content in order to
Mhm.
keep subscription numbers high and to keep viewing steady, so they can pay the advertising fees, or advertisers would pay them the fees to show their commercials and stuff. That, why the hell hasn't it been done already? It seems like it should have already been done like 8 times by now.
I don't know. I think the animated film was probably the canary in the coal mine. Like they tried it to see if it would work, and then they didn't really give the animated film its best chance to succeed.
Mm,
So then it didn't succeed, and then they can just wipe their hands at it. Like I don't understand the finance end of things, and
yeah.
I don't think that's why I like creators like George Lucas back in the day. He just
Yep.
made it. This is my idea. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make all these cool properties, these cool things, and I don't need the studios or anybody else to tell me what to do. And his work, like Star Wars, has influenced a generation of people and a society on such a huge whole. It's such a successful story, and um, yeah, we he didn't have anyone tell him no. Like Joe Manganiello seems like a passionate guy, and if he could just make something like this, like if he's the guy that takes over, if he could just get it away from the IP holder and just
Hmm.
make it, I think we'd have a good shot at something
Yeah.
really faithful to the original story. But I again, like there's layers to this that I just don't know. Maybe there's
Yeah.
something in the background. I don't know.
Yeah. It's wild. Corey, thanks for tuning in. Bruce, appreciate you. A strange question, asking thoughts on value for a pair of Dragonlance books be appropriate. I mean, you can ask whatever you'd like in there in the chat. Maybe some other viewers would have more insight, but in my opinion, all of the Dragonlance books should be cover jacket price or less. I I
Mhm.
don't believe in artificially inflating prices for rarity, or edition, or any of that. But that's in general, unless it's like a first edition Tolkien or something like that. I just I think it should just be fair market value. Um,
I I
let's
don't really have an opinion on the subject. I mean, free market. If you have something that's rare,
mm,
like as time goes on, the original chronicles in book and mint condition would be scarce, so then its value would go up. But I don't have an opinion on that. I guess
well, there's
really,
like that
people.
sort of Dragonlance spear-headed hardcover edition of Dragonlance, this like leather bound, and it
Hmm.
was out for a little while. It goes for like $600 or something like that.
Oh
And I
wow,
think it was like 30, $40 originally. And because, of
wow.
course, supply and demand, that's where you get
Hmm.
your inflated costs. I just can't ever justify the idea of spending that much on the collection that I already own three versions of.
Hmm.
So,
It's weird. I have a book. Drew Struzan, the famous poster painter,
mm,
he put out this book called Oeuvre, and it went out with a publisher that went out of business shortly after he put it out. But Drew Struzan had a lot of say in it. And anyways, it's a really nice book. It's large format, very rare and expensive for an art book.
mm,
And I don't even want to open it because it's worth a lot of money, I guess. I got it around at the time, and I had to pay a little bit over asking just to get it then.
yeah.
And now I think it's out of print, and at least last I heard, it's not something you can easily get. So now all of a sudden I've got a rare book, and you, it kind of sucks because you can't enjoy it, or you feel bad enjoying it, or if you do, enjoy it, you're like, well, keep my sip of coffee over here and
Right.
put my white gloves on, So books are meant to be enjoyed. I mean, they shouldn't be dog-eared and roughed up too badly, but they're meant to be enjoyed. So,
Yeah.
and read and learn from them.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, I don't know if you got something worth and you can sell it for whatever. I mean, I'm a capitalist.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Yeah. Corey says we might have to do a Kickstarter to get it going. Got to get hold of the IP before we can do a Kickstarter for it. That's the
Yeah.
only problem. Because if you generate money for something that you don't own, the owner can come and take your money. I think it's that simple.
It's interesting how Tracy Hickman tells the story how they were either going to sue him or hire him to get him to work at TSR, right? Because he was making bootleg Dragonlance or not Dragonlance, Dungeons and Dragons modules, I think. And they're like, well, we could either sue you or hire you, but let's hire you. And it worked out for the best for everybody. So sometimes, I think somebody could convince the IP holder of what they have and what is possible. It would make it a lot easier for them to spend the money to do something with it, right? And although look at the Star Wars model, look at how many fan films there are out there that Lucasfilm's been pretty good and generous at letting people use and make, and some of the stuff's really good. Like the quality of some of these shows that they're making now on YouTube and Star Trek ones, it's just crazy. So I don't know. Who knows how it'll play out.
The thing
but I have a question
someone
for you.
has to do it first and then see what the fallout is.
Yeah.
And that'll open floodgates.
I have a question: is what do we call Dragonlance fans? What do we call ourselves? Was there ever a Dragonlance fan book club back in the 80s and they had a name?
I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of, anyway.
Can we call ourselves like Lancers or Dragon Lancers? Would that be a cool?
Lancers would be a good one, I think. Dragon Lancers, it's the name of the brand, so you might as well just say fans of Dragonlance.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I was thinking about it today. I'm like, do we have a name for us? Like there's Trekkies or Trekkers. Star Wars fans are just Star Wars fans, right? But is there a name for Dragonlance fans? Do we what Lord of the Rings fans? What do they call them?
Oh gosh, everyone. The public.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe we should start something here, Adam.
Yeah. No, I like the idea.
Welcome, Lancers.
Engine Joe says Lance Sites.
Lance Sites? Okay.
I have a prototype package so people can experience the classic Dragonlance, no 5e, only classic art and original rules. Hold on, I gotta see. Oh, it's a new box set of the original stuff that's out of print. Stick to AD&D 2. That's nice. Bruce is saying, first one's Dragonlance Annotated Legends, still in factory plastic. The second is a hardcover Leatherbound Chronicles, still in factory plastic. What I would do, Bruce, honestly, is look at Amazon Marketplace and eBay as like the two main secondary sort of aftermarket providers, and that'll give you a general idea of what people are trying to sell them for. And if you really want to offload it so you can get some money, just go slightly under what they're doing. And then that usually, will cause them to either buy it from you so they can hike up the price again, or someone will just get lucky and buy it from you. But aftermarket, secondary market websites are ideal for finding costs. That leather-bound one, though, that's going to go for a good penny for sure.
I've never even seen it.
It looks awesome. It looks really, really good.
What year did that come out?
I think it was... I would be guessing. I think it was early 2000s, but I could totally just be guessing. Okay. I don't really know. I've only seen it. I've never, it was when I was like focusing on my career and not Dragonlance. And so it came and went. And when I finally started paying attention to Dragonlance again, I was like, oh, I missed that. Oh, it was 2006, I said.
Well, if I had seen it in 2006, I would have bought it. Yeah. But I hadn't seen it,
So Corey says,
it was ultra rare.
Lord of the Rings fan are called ringers.
Are they?
I don't know. I've never heard it before, but that's what he's saying. I wonder if so Lancers is good. I don't know.
Well,
let us know in chat
until we find something better.
Yeah.
Let's go with Lancers until we find something better. And if we actually start something, I'll take the credit.
Hell yeah. It's all yours, man. I know online there's some people that are like fans of the Lance. It's like a way of framing it, but that doesn't roll off as much as like, hey, how's it going, fellow lancers or
Mhm,
something to that
mhm,
effect. You
mhm.
missed War of Souls era due to the books getting expensive in the mid 2000s. Yeah. All right. Well, let's look at some of this other artwork because there's some
Sure, let's
character
go.
art that we
Mhm.
haven't even talked about yet. Surprisingly enough, there's more.
Yeah,
Okay, now I don't remember this character at all.
she was in the game. She was a player character. Up. They picked her up. Tanis's group picked her up after they left Sylvanosti. So I think they run into her in Flotsam,
Oh, right.
or on the way to
Right,
Flotsam
right, right, right.
in that module, and her and Krynn, and then
Yep.
those two are part of the adventure up until the end if you want, depending on how you play it. But
Yeah.
they needed extra characters because they split the party, so they needed to add 8 characters, and so they added her because they needed another fighter mage and or someone else to do magic besides Rasslin, and then Prawn to be the thief replacement because Tasselhoff was gone. He's
Right.
basically a. I think they put him in there. It's like, well, we lost Tasselhoff for this group, so we have to have a Kender for this group
I'm
because you can't have a
sure.
Dragonlance campaign
Yeah.
without a Kender tag along.
100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd like Lord of the Rings without a Hobbit. Like you just have to
Exactly,
have.
exactly. It doesn't fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always thought those characters were kind of cool and different. And, like I was saying before, I like to do characters that are less well known. Like the main heroes, the infidels are pretty cool. But there's other neat, interesting characters throughout the whole series that no one's really ever done any illustration of. So her and Kron were definitely on my list.
Nice. Well, she looks great. Like I
Yeah,
love
thank you.
her sort of upper vest and the texture that you have there with the fabric. Even the texture of
Yeah.
I don't know what that's called, that leather piece that goes over her shoulder.
Well, it's a tooled leather. I don't know what you would call it, but it's tooled leather with a bunch of acorn, symbol. That stuff you'd see on Western wear or Western saddles. That
Mm,
sort of pattern I was going for. You would think the elves would everything they had would be decorated with leaves and nature
yeah.
motifs, right? Like everything. And in the original illustrations in the module, they just have her in a pink blouse, but that's all you see, and
Oh
that's
wow.
it. So there's a lot of room to embellish and go with the character.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Well, we've got Injun Joe spoiling the character in chat,
Hmm.
saying what she is in disguise.
Hmm.
But in either case, I mean, she is stunningly beautiful. Sylvanesty looking, of course, with the black hair, and just super stylish. And even the pose, like the way the leg is sort of canted out with the ankle angled in. I mean, it just looks so good and
Yeah,
just
it's kind of model
comfortable.
pose a little
Yeah.
bit, but I mean, she's a babe.
Mm,
That's one thing that the girls would twist their hips a little too far. They had that sort of thing. You got to try to add some of that element when you can. At least
yeah.
I feel.
It's the only way to do fantasy, in my opinion, as well. I mean, it's how we grew up with it, and
Yep. Yeah.
the way that they've redefined it today really kind of bothers me. If you look
Oh.
inside the Dungeon Master's Guide, and they've in the newest version, the 2024 rule set, and they have these like one sheets that you're supposed to be able to like copy and use and use as handouts basically, but they've got these little cutesy sticker looking cartoony characters on them, and it just like in my mind I'm screaming because that's not.
Mhm.
If you look at the old Dungeon Master's Guide, you have
Mhm.
cartoons, but they're like
Mhm.
traditional cartoons telling a joke, and then you move
Mhm.
on to like the series, like the paladin fighting demons in hell, or like a
Mhm.
troll luring victims around the corner or something in a dungeon. I mean, there's always like super danger. Nowadays, all the artwork is either people making out, super cutesy and bubbly, or they're like it's all like super bright and like crazy
Yeah.
vibrant
It's
colors, and it's totally different.
well. I think I said this before, but there's no dungeons and no dragons
Right.
on any of it. Like that I see. I'm like, well, where's the peril? Where's the adventure? Where's the mystery?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the why? Why are we playing this? Like what is the goal of this?
Yeah.
Is it just social time? Because it seems like it's more about socializing in a fantasy world than actually adventures and stories and that kind of thing. Like I agree with you.
Mhm.
It doesn't appeal to me, this current iteration of it. And the illustrations, some of the illustrations are really good, but it seems like it's just veered off target compared to what you and I grew up with and
Yeah.
what I think the brand is. Like, there's no dungeons, there's no dragons, there's no monsters. Like, what's going on here? What's the plan? What's the
Yeah.
goal? You know?
Yeah, and they're like literally like
Mhm.
removing a lot of the monsters as well. So much so that like even like the different races are no longer really different at all. You know, everything's just sort of
Yeah,
the
I don't know. It's
same.
magic and weird. Like, we don't
Mhm.
always need to have reasons. We don't always have to. They're supposed to have fun. I've noticed they really fixate on beholders. Like, the beholder is really on a lot of their advertising stuff,
Oh
and I
yeah.
don't know why.
Yeah.
But like, it's a really weird, unique creature for Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe that's it. But you know, that's just what I noticed.
Mhm.
Objectively, I always see like a beholder fighting or it's screaming at people in a
Right.
place, and I I wouldn't mind seeing something different. I wouldn't mind,
Mhm.
like, that's what I liked about the old AD&D and AD&D second edition art. Like, that to me, that is like the gold standard.
Yeah.
And every time you flip a page, or every module you picked up, there'd be some new creature, like a flying Pegasus with this, or there'd be a uh, what is that? Is that a displacer beast? Or,
Right.
you want to know what this creature is. Like, you pick it up, it's like, is that an ogre? That's an Etten. What's an Etten? And then,
Yeah.
like, these types of things. Like, I love going through bestiaries of the old Monsters Compendium and
Yes.
just reading about these things. Like, what is this? Like, what's a sturge? What is
Mhm.
that? Like the blood sucking bird for caves, or,
Yes. Yes.
gelatinous cube, or the mimic. Or, like, they had all these really neat creatures and things. And I don't want to get lost in, like, where do they come from and why are they there? I just want to experience them.
Yeah.
Just, oh my god, like, Displacer Beast, I think, is one of the coolest creatures. Just because it's such a weird concept and it's neat, like a tentacled panther that can,
Yeah.
mimic, make displace itself. So there's a mirror image of it. I mean, that's just cool, right?
Oh, I
The
thought it was
wonder
awesome.
and imagination
Mhm.
of Dungeons and Dragons is what really sucked me in, and I don't know if it's because it's maybe they're I don't know what it seems like there's some sort of disconnect. Like, there's I don't think there's as much wonder and imagination anymore as there used to be,
Yeah.
or people have, or maybe we're just so used to it. I don't know. What do
I
you think?
wonder if that does have something to do with it. I mean, Corey's in the chat saying, remember the Fiend Folio book, which was, yeah, it was amazing. And so,
Mm.
we sort of grew up with this. And so familiarity means it's no longer exotic.
Yeah,
Whereas I
yeah.
wonder if kids nowadays who are in their school clubs and they pick up a monster manual, if they have that same sort of excitement and wonder that we did when we had originally picked it up, or if they're
Mhm.
so inundated with video game bad guys and monsters that it's just like, oh, it's just that I already know what that is, just because it's in the zeitgeist now. Whereas
Mm.
when we were kids,
Mm.
it wasn't. It was totally new and different.
Mm.
So I wonder if that has something to do
You
with it.
could be right. You
I don't
could be
know.
right. It's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Imaginations are different. Kids imagine things differently, and they
Yeah.
have different attentions.
Yeah.
That could be too.
I was just busting your chops, and Joe. There's no problem with that at all, man. Just totally playing with you. Kim, how you doing? You still have a copy of the Fiend Folio in the closet? Nice. I've got digital copies of
Sweet.
everything TSR and Wizards of the Coast has released up until like third edition, and then like the
Wow.
main
Wow.
books. But it's all just like the PDF versions that they made for sale online. So Mayonnaisium, thanks
I
for
love
tuning in.
I love the paper versions. I love that the best. The old
Yeah.
modules, just having it, in that little cardboard folder that went around it, and the
Hmm.
maps. Like, I loved all those old things. That's one thing that you don't get with the PDF version is the map,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm sure you could print one out, but it's not the same. Having that,
Yep.
the map and flip it over, and it's just, I don't know. It's like every time you got a module, it was like a treasure trove or a treasure map or something.
Yeah.
Maybe this is me. Anybody else feel that way? Did anyone else appreciate the old school ones?
Oh, I'm sure everyone watching it. I know, like it's like my bucket list of finishing out collecting all the modules. I just have to wait for life to align for that to happen right now. But it is,
You got
I've
time. You got
started.
time.
Yeah, yeah. You love the Shout of the Dragon Queen book came with a map of Krynn. You want to frame it? Yeah, that was a decent map. I always liked like the sort of go-to map when I was coming up was the Tales of Alliance box set map for second edition, and that was just like this massive one you just sort of unfolded, and it's sort of like all vibrant and blues and greens and stuff. I always loved that one, but it printed with so many errors because they had like little white dots that they never filled in the numbers to then reference in the books of what they meant. And so it was
Mhm.
just like forever printed as an error, and it was never gone through and corrected. It's so crazy that that happened. But
That almost
that's,
adds to the charm, though, right?
mm, yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, so let's look at the next one we've got here. So we already saw one of the Draconians. I think it was a Bozak, if memory serves. This is a
It was
K-Pack.
Baz.
Yeah, Baz. Okay, thank you. The K-Pack are poisonous. They like have this poison saliva they lick their blades with, and they just always seem so much more vicious than some of the other ones, simply because they're more like assassins and stuff like that. But this guy
I
looks
remember
dope.
the first time I read, you read about them in the book. Uh, One of their number gets killed, and a couple of them sit back and like, oh, wait till they see what happens. Like they almost wanted their companion to die and turn into acid and
Right.
smoke everybody out, just because it would best with the party and everybody. They're that cruel. They'd let one of their own die or encourage one of their own to die just to mess with the party even more. Like I like that about them. They're just really conniving and thuggy type
Yeah.
characters. So yeah, they were always my favorite too. Out of all the Draconians, I just liked the K-Pack. I don't know. I think it was the original design in the book, and I tried to keep close to that. With that sort of executioner's mask they have
Right.
over their
Right.
head. That kind of look, and a bit like a pirate type sword, a cutlass. Like I really just kept it fairly close to what was in the original illustrations, and then just kind of put my taste or my spin on it.
I just wanted to be like turn to the camera and just say, "I'm Batman," with the mask.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm Batman. I'm Dracman. Oh, yeah.
I wonder if part of what I really liked about the Lord of the Rings films was that the artistry that went into each individual creature, and so they felt like individuals. I wonder
Mhm.
if you're like a one of many K-Pack, would they have like scarification and tattoos or and piercings, or I mean, do you think like culturally they would want to differentiate themselves, or do you think because they were bred and had this militaristic lifestyle from literal hatching birth that they were just very regimented and know everyone has to look the same, and you know what I mean, like the ecology of the lifestyle of these things?
I think that's a really interesting question, and I do ponder that when I'm doing this. But I kind of, whenever there's a draconian that is individualistic in the books, they always kind of, something about it just rubs me wrong. Like it just feels like that was the unique one or the smartest one out of the batch that they turned into a spy or they
Mm,
trained up for something. I always felt like the Oraks were the smartest because they were the magic users. So
yeah.
maybe, and they're the rarest, so they would be different. You come down to like Baz and K-Pack, they're all just kind of grunts. They're just, you know, uh, bred for purpose.
Hmm.
And they don't really have much for individual personalities, right? Like,
Right.
I just, I've never really thought of them as individuals and that like having names, like it's just, they probably just have numbers, kind of like clones, in
Right.
like the Star Wars Clone Wars where they all have
Yeah.
clones. They're all, I mean, they all have numbers. It's
K-Pax
kind of how I
72527.
Yeah, like if it's military, it would make sense. They'd all have an ID number, right? Maybe they
Mm.
would brand the ID number on them or what batch,
Oh,
like their hatch batch. Like so
right.
their batch number 47. Like that'd be kind of
That'd
the
be
way they would do it,
interesting.
right? Yeah. So maybe it'd be, their bronze batch number 22, and then
Yeah.
they do that. And then maybe there's 15 in the back. Like I'm sure they could come up with some kind of barcode or not barcode, number system or
Right.
an alphabetical system. Or, I mean, would it look cool if they had Roman numerals branded on them, like they were from the legions? The
I
Roman
think
legion,
that would
because
look kind of
legionnaires
neat.
used to have those types of tattoos. How would you tattoo dragon skin or
Right.
human mutated dragon skin?
Right.
Like, there's a lot to unpack there.
Hmm.
I think they would probably mostly be at squad level. You'd have
Yeah.
they would just be squad one, squad two, squad three, and then maybe they would move like a clutch or a brute. So you'd only
Yeah.
have they kind of worked as a unit all the time. I don't know. Like, there's lots of ways we could do it, and
Yeah.
there's lots of room to expand on it. But giving every one of them a personality humanizes them too much, and I really feel like they're evil. They're like orcs.
Mhm.
Orcs shouldn't be humanized. Like they shouldn't have anything really redeeming about them. They're bred for evil from evil. Like there's no redeeming quality about a draconian in my mind at all. Like
It's
I
interesting.
just
So,
can't see it.
so Joe is saying Takesis marks them with a magic rune. That would be an interesting way of doing it. Corey is suggesting
Mhm,
brand them. The rune ties them to their egg clutch and their batch, which I think would be is a fantastic way of doing it.
mhm,
I like the idea of a brand too, because it's more of like a personification, like a attitude thing, sort of like
mhm,
wicked, like I can suffer this brand and I sort of champion it. I like that idea a little bit. Yeah, there, and everyone has a perspective on this, and so I'd love to hear what everyone in chat thinks about this that's watching, um, because Draconians were created to be monsters. The whole
mhm,
point was they were shock troops to fill in for the numbers of disposable troops the the Dragon High Lords needed in order to take all of Ansalon for the Dark Queen, of course. So they were meant to not be individualistic, and they were meant to follow orders and die when they were commanded to take a hill that would cause them to die. However, in later books, Margaret Weiss and Don Perrin created King and his regiment, which changed Draconians entirely for all of Dragonlance moving forward. And they even created something called noble Draconians. So the idea being when they ran out of good dragon eggs, they started using evil dragon eggs, and those evil dragon eggs created the noble Draconians. So they were inherently good rather than the good dragon eggs being inherently evil. And so there were very few of the noble Draconians once they realized what happened, that they turned out being good. And there's only been one short story that I'm aware of that's ever even talked about them, and they've always been in game supplements. But so here's the question for those watching, and for you, Mike: do you like your Draconians to remain monsters, or do you like the idea of them becoming individuals? I know you had just mentioned that they'll always sort of be monsters to you, but do you like the idea of after the war, when there's no more need for the shock troop culture, should they evolve into their own species, do you think?
No, I don't. I think they're because they're I think of them as they're created for purpose, and then once their purpose is served, the queen would discard them. Like they don't have an ecology. They don't have females. They don't have an ability to reproduce. Right? They're all basically, well, as far as I know, they're all male
Yeah.
draconians. Right? So
Yeah, they did change
and
that
they're
in the books, but yeah,
okay. Well, later on, but from the time period we're talking
100%.
about, the lore at that point,
Yeah.
and they were created. They needed a dark cleric and a dark magic user and dragon eggs in order to make them. So there was all these artificial mechanisms needed in order to create them in the first place. So I just kind of saw them as a finite amount of
Right.
these creatures, and then once they ran out of them, they ran out of them.
Mm.
And I don't ever think of them as being around more than 5 years. Like I don't think any of them are older than that in my mind. I
Right.
imagine them being all created and sort of created and grow, or maybe they grow artificially or they grow rapidly with magic, and then they're just ready to go. I mean, they could even have some magic incorporated into their creation where they come out of the egg, they grow, and they're already basically ready to do basic things. Like because I don't see them being taught how to eat and how to do basic skills. Like who's
Mm-hmm.
going to teach them that, and why would the dark queen or evil creatures do that? Like I can see them teaching creatures like Bozak how to, because they can cast spells, like how to read and write and do whatever. But I almost think Bozak and Orak, their spell casting, maybe that comes from innate
Yep.
ability, not from traditional studying of magic.
Yeah,
Like
like
they're really
dragons.
interesting creatures, and there's ways to go with it. But I just see them, and this is just how I see them in my mind. But I mean, you guys can see them however you choose in yours. But I see them as purpose built war machines.
Mm-hmm.
And once their purpose, they're just a tool to the dragon armies. And once their purpose has been fulfilled, they no longer need them.
Yeah.
And who knows how long they live for? Like maybe they're only meant to live 30 years, or maybe they have the lifespan of a dragon and can live 1,000 years or
Right.
2,000, or who knows, right? that is yet to be determined. And I think it's an interesting concept that, like, what happens after the war,
Yeah.
right? Like, do they go and start communities, or could they, or would they band together? I mean, there's a lot of them left over, or
Hmm.
would they be like orcs and Tolkien, where when Sauron dies, they all just kind of go insane, and some of them
Right.
live, some of them die, some of them kill themselves, like some of them, who knows what happens to them. Like I imagine when the Dark Queen leaves Krynn, it would. I don't think she has a hold on them to the sense that they would just die on the spot. I think they would probably just, okay, what now? They need some kind of leadership. I
Hmm.
think I don't know. That's definitely ground that people could. It sounds like they've done it in later
Oh yeah.
novels, but
Yeah, they have.
um, as far as I know, I try to cut myself off after the legends. That's sort of
Hmm.
where I I keep my headspace in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually referred to as like the Holy Six amongst some
Oh, okay,
Dragonlance
yeah,
fans of Chronicles and Legends. Like that totality is Dragonlance, and for some people, it never goes beyond that, and that's totally fine. Like, however, you want to enjoy it, enjoy it the way you want to enjoy it. Of course, there's nothing wrong
mhm,
with that. Kim says they have a pack mentality, which I like as well. Sake
mhm.
Sam says, thanks for tuning in, by the way. Agency is important for any race. And so the idea of them
Mhm.
having agency is important. And that's interesting too.
Well, it'd be interesting to see them go from a place where they had zero agency as just aimless soldiers to all of a
Hmm.
sudden trying to discover that. And I can see where the authors would have taken that to, okay, now they can give themselves names. Now they can build communities. Now they can kind of trade with people, or what are their goals? Like if
Hmm.
all they've been done is, if all they had to do is train for war, what skills would they have in order to feed themselves or be of use to the rest of the world? So
Yeah.
would they sell themselves as mercenaries, or would they start farming? I don't know.
Hmm.
That's a whole other. I mean, that's the deep dive fantasy stuff, right?
I
And
love
that,
it. I think it's fun.
yeah, yeah.
Joe has a great idea for a quest here. A wizard
Mhm,
asks the party to identify a certain batch of draconians and eliminate them. They have a magical device
mhm.
that lets them see the binding rune keeping the draconian. And so you sort of become like a Blade Runner hunting for draconians among the human population. I think that would be so cool. That's a
That would
really
be
interesting
cool.
way of doing a little adventure. Okay, so
I
let's.
endorse that adventure.
I don't know why, but these walrus men make me laugh. I think that's so funny. It's like looking
Yeah.
at any
Well,
human naked, you almost think of them as like a toddler. you
uh-huh,
know,
uh-huh.
it's like a cute
Well,
little
part of
baby
it
butt
when you're
running.
when you're designing these creatures, these monsters and stuff, like you try to figure out, how do they work? How do they move? What do they look like? And most of the time when we see them, they're just kind of static poses, right? But I'm trying to get a sense of what Thanoi, how they move, what they
Mm,
like, and this is the great part about doing iterative sketching, is like I can draw him sprinting or sitting on top of a polar bear or
which is
diving
awesome.
into the pool. Like what would he look like swimming? And I imagine they're like, I don't like the versions of Thanoi where they're wearing clothing. It just doesn't make any sense if you're swimming in the ocean. Um, they're walrus peoples, but they would have a lot of body mass because of all the
They have
blubber and
huge
insulation,
blubber layers.
insulation stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of wanted to play into that more, and yeah, and so I would use these sketches, and then from there I would go on and do my next stage of design. And I quite often do this with a lot of the different characters that I do, but I don't always post it. And that's just part of the whole concept design process. It's just wrap your head around it, and it's iterative. And every time you do it, you learn something new, and it informs your design, and your design starts to evolve.
Right. No, it's really, really interesting. And I love hearing the process as well. It makes it a
Mhm.
lot of fun. So we have color applied and we can see sort of the skeletal, how the hand works and everything. I think that's interesting. And we have an actual walrus up in the corner here. I love the
Mhm.
height references and everything too.
Yeah, so I'm making actual character sheets that a modeler could use if they were, modeling this guy for a product, a game or an animation or whatever, right? Like part of this project too is for me to make these things and add it to my portfolio and just show what I can do and do different things. I don't often get to do fun creatures, and I like the whole process. So in this case, I want, we need to see the orthographic views, front, back, side. So that's what a modeler would need in order to do it. And then the really complicated part of it, the anatomy on a walrus guy, is the hand, right? How would that work? Because walrus, if you look at their bone structure, it's They can't really. It's just a flipper, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the actual bone, the skeletal system itself, it's like how I drew it, but I just changed it a bit so it has an opposable thumb or
Right.
semi-opposable thumb, so he could actually grasp something if he needed, right? But when you look at the skeletal structure of an actual walrus, it's just flaps. But they
Mm-hmm.
do have fingers. They do have all the bones in there to, think they could grab things or manipulate that flipper. But to give him a little bit of change just to where the placement of the thumb is
Mm-hmm.
allows him to, be able to grab things. But again, I don't see him. They use their hands for swimming and clawing and feeding themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But with those tusks, like I don't see them having fine motor skills like forks and knives and you know doing anything really complicated with their hands. And I don't think they would need to as part of their lifestyle.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, and it's just so fascinating how so I mean we're literally connected through our DNA to every version of life on this planet, whether it's grass or mushrooms to walruses and humans. I like we're related absolutely. Um, and we can even see the skeletal structure is so similar even in such disparate creatures like the walrus flippers or bat wings, for example, are like fingered bones as well. It's just like everything has this sort of logical evolutionary sense to it, even if it's silly looking to our eye, that if we're then going to extrapolate into fantasy, we can always draw from that similarity to real world ridiculous looking animals and just fantasize them, like create, use them as jumping off sort of springboards. I think it's great. I think it looks really cool. And I
Mhm.
love the scarring that you have on this one as well. It
Well,
looks
they
like he's
would.
seen
If
some
you have you
battle.
ever seen like any of
Oh
these
yeah.
animals at a zoo or
Yeah.
up close?
Yeah.
They're One time I went deep sea fishing with some people
Oh
off the
wow.
coast of uh, Vancouver Island, and we went up to some rock miles offshore. Like I couldn't see any land anywhere, and there's just this rock face out there, and surrounded by the rock there was not walrus, but another. I can't remember the name of the animal now. It's like a giant seal.
Hmm.
They look like walruses, but they're not. But they don't have tusks, but they're just these giant animals. The name escapes me right now. It's on the tip of my tongue, and I've never seen any of these. I've never seen a sea creature that large up close,
Oh
and
wow.
it literally like went right under the boat. And there was probably 40 or 50 of them on these rocks out there, and I'm a landlubber. Like I'm from the prairies,
Yeah.
so I was totally scared out of my mind. Like we're gonna die. They're gonna swamp the boat. What are we gonna do? And yeah, it was crazy. It was cool, and to see this texture of their skin up close, and they were all covered in scars. From fighting or maybe propellers from boats. I don't
Yep.
know,
Yep.
but I mean, none of them had pristine skin. Like they lived their life, and it's a I mean, I've got lots of scars too, but none of
Yeah.
them as dramatic. But yeah, you got to add scars and stuff to these creatures. It makes them look lived in and
For
fearsome
sure.
and threatening, right?
It's so good though. I mean, yeah, it just adds that extra element of realism to the fantasy creature so that you sort of suspend disbelief, You just sort
Hmm.
of buy
Hmm.
into what you're looking at. Oops. Oh yeah. I've got to say this because I'm a big Danzig fan. He was going to be the Wolverine back in the '90s when they were first putting together the Iron Man film. They're like
Really?
also talking about doing a Wolverine film with Danzig as Wolverine. And at the
Oh yeah.
time, I always thought that would be amazing because he is a short, super muscular dude. Um,
Hmm.
he would be a really cool looking Wolverine, I think. They could really do his hair up really nice. Um,
I love his scowl. He's just got this great face. Like he looks threatening.
mm,
He does it well. He pulls it off well. And when I was thinking about who would play Ariakis, and he doesn't really. He's only in the last book, and we don't really get a lot of time with him. And there's not really a lot of classic illustrations of him.
yeah.
The only one I can think of is the one with Tanis standing over him, holding the crown,
Yep.
and he's dead on the ground. And that guy doesn't look threatening at all. He just looks like a
Yeah.
Dead accountant or something. He doesn't have that. He doesn't look like the meanest, baddest leader of all the dragon army. So I'm like, who would play that? Who, in my mind, who could do that? And I mean, the long black hair, that receding hairline, the scowl. I mean, Ariakis for sure would
Yeah.
be Danzig. So that's what I was thinking.
And
And
the just
throughout
the
the
belt
development,
and everything, even the sort of like neck collar, I don't know what you call that. It all
yeah,
just fits.
he's got to have grandeur, right? But he's got to show off his pipes,
Mhm.
and he doesn't really, because of his magic. He's not really worried about anybody hurting him, but he still has to wear the, all the ceremonial garb. He's the emperor. He's got to represent.
Yeah.
So I was trying to. I did a couple of iterations of him on my social media, and then people would chime in and say, "Okay, we like this or we don't like that." And a lot of people really like Verminard's costume and just or any iteration of that, but I didn't want him to look like Verminard. Like this is Verminard's superior, so
Mhm.
he's got to. There has to be some of the similar elements. So I tried to incorporate what I could, and then change a few things and go from there. And so yeah, this is what I came up with.
Yeah, anytime you're dealing with someone who's like an emperor, like he
Mhm,
would
mhm,
be the emperor of all of Anslon had they succeeded. He's got to have airs, in his presentation. He's just got to be like sort of over the top, and he wasn't a down to earth realistic individual. When you saw him in
mhm,
the books, he was brutal and callous,
mhm,
and he was direct, and he had the only god that had ever been known on Krynn for 350 years was in his ear. Like he
mhm,
had that attention. Like she
mhm,
made him invulnerable. He had the crown of power, the Mycerum. Like he was like the chosen one, like put on a pedestal. Of
mhm.
course he's going to be arrogant and, just sort of bombastic, and he has no fear at all. He demands
Mhm.
respect or you die. Like
Yeah,
that's the type of character. So I think this does him justice. I think he looks really, really great. And those
great. Thank you.
guns, man. Those are
Yeah.
massive. Yeah, Ian, thanks for tuning
I,
in.
I kind of think that's part of the deal when someone makes a deal to kiss us is they grant your vanities. So let's
Mhm.
say he wants to be stronger than everyone, so she makes him stronger. Or Kitiara wants to be beautiful, so she makes her even more beautiful, or keeps her young looking, or
Yeah.
uh, I think that would be kind of part of the deal because she's supposed to be a seductress, right? So what does she offer them besides
Yeah.
the like power? But what else? What else can she do? And I would think this guy maybe that's part of it. Like he still has like all this strength and youthfulness, even though maybe he's in his 50s, and he instead of declining like most normal people, he's immortal, or who knows, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a neat character, and I'm glad I got to do him. And I'd like to do the other High Lords as well, just to kind of round out the set
It would
eventually.
be interesting to once you do have time to get it all done, to see them all sort of lined up, like
Mhm,
here's the emperor
mhm,
in front and then his high lords behind him. How that I just think that would look so cool. And then the minute details of personality and presentation of each high lord, because I think the way you did Fieldfast is just amazing. And of course, now we
mhm,
have Erica's here, so it would be really nice to see how they each sort of represent. I mean, everyone has this idea of Verminard because, of course, we have a handful of really great artwork of Verminard, and he's just that sort of first iconic dragon overlord we ever see, High Lord. But
mhm.
when we see Kitiara, it's like a total stark change from Verminard to Kitiara, and they're both the same level of power in the dragon armies, but they have completely different style. And then you see Fieldfast, and he has completely different style the way you portrayed him too. So it would be interesting.
Yeah, well, we'll do that when I finish them all. We'll do a lineup, and then we'll
That'd be
put it
very
up.
cool.
Because yeah, I'd like that too, and it's always fun to see characters lined up side by side. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you see all the heroes of the Lance lined up, or all the knights of Salamnia lined up, then it almost makes it better. In like
Mm-hmm.
the design, like the similarities in the design. Oh, okay, it looks more cohesive, but then also the individual elements stand out. It's a really interesting exercise, and that's why people post those, and why game
Yeah.
development companies do that, like the lineup, because you're also designing like we'd be designing all of the dragon armies and all the high lords, right? So
Yep.
they have to look different, but they also have to look the same. and that's kind of how you would do it for any project. So yeah, I'll do the lineup. It'll happen.
That'll be awesome. That'll be really awesome. All right. So I keep hitting the wrong button. Love how he looks. Now Armin Karas, he's one of the ice barbarians. Like isn't he the king of the ice barbarians?
No, he's from DL4, Dragons of when they go into Thorbidden
Right.
and they have
I
to get the Hammer of
totally had that
Caris.
mixed up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Oh, I got you on one.
Yeah. You
He's
totally
the
did. Yeah.
son of yeah, he's the son of the king.
Oh, I love
And
that tartan right there. The
yeah, that's one thing Dragonlance needs more of is tartan and Celtic stuff because it's very prominent in
mhm.
all of the literature and all the design and everything. So I wanted to add it more. And the dwarves are always kind of associated with Scottish culture, anyways. So I thought I'd lean into a bit more and have some tartan on this guy. And we don't really there aren't very many illustrations of mountain dwarves or other hill dwarves for that matter. It's mostly just flint and all of the Dragonlance stuff. So I thought I would kind of show what would a dwarf prince look like.
It looks cool. So is this the Hammer of Karas? DXD is saying it's nice to see it.
Yeah, well, I that's up to you to determine, right? Because in the module, he has a replica of the hammer, and that's what he uses as his weapon. And it's supposed to look just like it, but it's based off of what a picture or a mosaic or some sort of historical record of the hammer. But
Right.
he's never actually seen it. And this guy thinks he's the reincarnation of the real Karis, so that's why he names himself Karis. So there's kind of he's a neat character. He doesn't really get a lot of love in the Dragonlance world. But I did
Yeah.
do like a Celtic anvil shape on his shield.
Well, yeah.
You know,
No,
it's
that
kind
looks
of like
great.
Thor's hammer. Actually, I think it's more like
Mjolnir.
there's a bunch of symbols already to represent that. So
Right.
hammers, anvils, uh, those types of motifs, I think would be really prominent in all dwarven art
Yeah.
and crafts.
It's man, it's a little frustrating because like looking at this image, which is great, and then I'm like reflecting back on like the Rings of Power Amazon series that everyone hated.
Mhm.
But I love the dwarves in it. And I always love
Mhm.
seeing like dwarven kingdoms in any film or series. I think it's just so cool for some reason.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, this would be so good if this was a series and we could see this character come to life in a dwarven
Mhm.
kingdom and I'd see the life tree, the
Mm.
Urkon Sea, and everything in I don't know, fake real
You know what
life.
I think what they get in all these dwarf underground cities in these movies, like the Tolkien movies, is they're always such vast places,
Yeah,
giant cavernous halls. And look how short dwarves are. That makes no sense, except for vanity. But why would a dwarf build a hallway that is 100 feet high when the dwarf's only 4 feet, 4.5 feet tall? Like it
yeah,
doesn't make any sense to do that unless it's already a giant cave and they're just sort of refining it. But I would think, and I like some of the just like in the modules they talk about the levels of Thorbidden and the different areas, and they're actually small spaces.
yeah.
Like someone like Riverwind really has a hard time inside Thorbidden. And did you ever read the R.A. Salvatore books, Crystal Shard and any of those
No,
ones? So he wrote the second book. It's called Streams of Silver, and they go into an old dwarven city. It's basically a knockoff of Moria from
okay,
the Lord of the Rings,
yeah,
right? But when they describe it, they talk about just how much smaller of a space it is. Like, and so the heroes have a little bit of harder time fighting and doing things, and that makes more sense to me. Like, I like that idea of being like when you're in. I love the Hobbit movies where they're in Hobbiton and they're in Bag End, and Gandalf hits his head on the roof, and everything's
yeah,
so small, and everyone's trying to fit in that tiny space. I like that, and I don't think they don't do that for obvious technical reasons for these
hmm
movies, but I want to see these characters in dwarf size spaces and dwarf size. Like it doesn't make sense when they go to again in the Hobbit movies when they go to the foundry where they lure Smog in. I don't know if you remember that
yeah,
scene where they
yeah.
lure him in, and why do they need a foundry that is as big of a football field? Like really, what's the point?
Yeah.
And you know, like, does that serve any purpose except it looks cool in a movie? But
Well,
as
I
like
wonder if it's
a
meant to be
yeah,
that way. Because do you remember in the books, was it described that way in there? Did,
the, no, the Hobbit almost says nothing about what you
yeah.
know that kingdom looks like. Like
Mm,
Great Halls is basically all they say. They really just embellished and made up everything in those
yeah.
movies, and they talk a little bit about things, but even I still in my mind think about how does Smog fit inside a dwarf city? Like how does he get through all like and gather all the gems and eat all the dwarves? Like he can't physically fit in every single closet throughout
Right.
all of you know what is it, the Lonely Mountain.
I imagine he
Anyways,
like
that's what I think about, right?
blows
Um,
fire in little rooms and then sucks out the dust
well, they did a really
that
cool thing
remains.
in that I think the second movie where they find a guard room where people starved, like everyone fled there and then they died there. Like I don't know if they starved to death or they ran out of water or whatever. That was really sad, but it made a lot of sense because you would think there would be a lot of people trapped inside the city that couldn't get out past the dragon and they just
Yeah.
stayed there until the end. Um, that makes sense, and there's so many levels. Like Thorburden, there's the lowest levels where the Dewar or Durgar live,
Yeah. There you are.
and they're the bad dwarfs, and like it's really that's it sounds like they just live in caves and they're all insane.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they can't even see, they have to cover their eyes when they come out because it's too
yeah,
bright,
well, I
even at
mean,
night.
yeah, like you had mentioned that the Underdark of Krynn is quite vast and interesting, and that's something that's not explored hardly at all in any of the literature.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we had a
I think there's a
little,
lot of room.
as DXD is mentioning in the Lost Chronicles, that first one, Dragons of Dwarven Depths. Um,
Mhm.
it sort of fills in between, the Chronicle novels, and it did a really great job of explaining what happened under Thorbarden or in Thorbarden and stuff like that. We are going to
Mhm.
have to sort of pause here. We're at our limit, and I've got some family games to be playing with the family. So thank you so very much, Mike, for joining me once again. And once again, we didn't get through all the images either.
I talk too much. I talk too much. But thanks. This is great. I love talking Dragonlance, and it's always a good time.
Well, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate you sharing your wonderful artwork with us here, and then of course the discussions about Dragonlance and everything that goes with it is just so much fun. And I'm sure fun for the audience too. But for the audience, thank you so much for tuning into these and chiming in the chat room when you have a chance. We really do appreciate the interaction. It sort of bouncing ideas between you and us really makes this an interesting experience. So thank you for tuning in. But that is all we have time for the Hangout today. What do you all think of the characters that were showcased today? Do you have a favorite piece that was shown? Let us know in the comments below. You can always reach out to Mike on Twitter/X. You can email me at info@dlsaga.com. I would like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. It goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. And this channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga. I hope you'll join in that celebration. So, for Mike and myself, thank you so very much for joining us. Until next time, Slán Javar.